Hello, and welcome to a Reinvent Yourself podcast. I'm Lisa Andria, and I want to thank you for watching. My goal is to share insights from successful people in order to help others with their reinvention journey. My guest today is Jacqueline Loza, a current paralegal real estate lease administrator for Delta Galil Premium Brands, who decided to change her life and go to Pacific Coast University Law School or School of Law in Long Beach, California. Jacqueline is the proud daughter of a Mexican immigrant father and a mother whose parents were Mexican immigrants. Jacqueline started out as an operations manager for a nonprofit organization and had been in the field for several years. While she enjoyed her career, there was not much opportunity for growth within the organization or in the field in general. Therefore, she began to ponder obtaining another degree that could provide her with options and a longer career lifespan. After contemplating an MBA, a friend of hers suggested law school. From that point on, after researching articles and options, a juris doctorate presented, she took a leap and took the LSAT and got into law school. Once she graduates and passes the bar, she hopes to practice real estate law, corporate law, wills and trusts, potentially, and has been learning a lot about elder law as of late. Welcome, Jacqueline.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thanks for joining me today. I know you have an amazing journey to talk about, and you're really, really busy, so I appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely.
So I was introduced to you at a Signal Hill Chamber of Commerce mixer that was held at the Pacific Coast University School of Law in Long Beach. You're in your last months of law school. So first, congratulations on that accomplishment. Yay.
Yes.
Becoming a lawyer takes a lot of commitment, time, and energy. So let's start by talking to what made you decide to take that route and where has this led you over the past several years?
Sure. So I will say, I think like most who, attempt to start any sort of other degree, I think nobody really tells you the full truth of what you're about to get yourself into.
Wow.
So I have discovered the pitfalls and potholes along my, basic 4-year, I would pretty much say about a 6-year journey, because it takes time to research. You have to study for the LSAT, pass the LSAT. So there's a lot more to it than just, submitting a law school application and getting in. So as I said, there's been a lot of pitfalls. You take the LSAT, it's not the score you wanted. So you study some more and you try again and hope that you can raise your score the second time.
Wow, I didn't even realize that that was an aspect of it. It's just trying to get the right score on your LSAT. Mm-hmm. Even that alone was an obstacle you had to overcome. Yeah,
absolutely. And then it's the, challenge of looking for the right law school for yourself, right? And because I'm a working adult, there's not a lot of program options in terms of being able to fit all that into my schedule while maintaining employment. Right. So it's finding that right program for you. There's, options there's ABA schools, and then there's California bar approved schools. PCU is a California bar approved accredited program. And what this basically entails is that I'm just focusing on practicing law in California, and I could potentially take bars in other states if I wanted to practice there, but I'd have to get permission from their particular bar.
Right.
ABA, you can pretty much practice across the United States by getting reciprocity. There's different arms that you can go through in order to practice in other states. But for me, it's basically California.
So talk about it seems like you had a journey, not just making that decision and passing the LSAT. I can't find my piece of paper with your information, but you even changed your job. You started on a trajectory towards this law degree, right?
Absolutely. Because I had been in facilities and operations, I felt like the natural pathway for me would be real estate. So I wanted to get more experience in terms of, what that looks like. So I started looking for other positions and found one with a real estate developer and became an executive assistant that also turned into what's called a lease administrator, which basically means that I am taking the lease from a letter of intent. And since I was on the landlord side, it's an LOI between the landlord and the tenant, letter of intent, that basically outlines the terms of what should be in the lease. So from then on, I'm managing the go-between between the, council and my internal departments. There's development, construction, accounting, finance. I mean, there's so much involved in getting that lease to the finish line. So it's me basically funneling it and coordinating between departments to get various approvals on the various, drafts and redrafts of a lease before it even gets signed. And then once it gets signed, then you have to distribute copies to tenant and make sure we have one. It's a process.
Yeah, and it sounds like, though, it really is good experience for positioning what you were doing in your law degree and what you
Absolutely.
eventually what you're targeting. That's really,
Right.
that is a good thing. And that's something to remember for people who are looking to get into something that's completely different. There's a way to actually get a job that kind of leads you through that path, even though you're changing, completely what you do. So that was a really good learning experience and a good insight for those that are watching this interview.
Yes, I would recommend that for anyone who has the ability to switch jobs into something that they're really interested in doing. It's difficult. You have to really prove yourself, because I, didn't come from a direct, developer side. I've been a tenant in terms of in a building where my office was and worked with their facilities teams, but I wasn't necessarily working on the lease terms. So I really had to convince them that my background would be suited in order to adapt and perform in this position. And then in the meantime, I decided to get a paralegal certificate before I started law school, because I felt like, again, there's another introduction into terminology and what, different agreements look like, different arms of the law look like. And that was also another really beneficial introduction for law for me, and knowing that this was something I really did want to pursue.
Yeah, because you could have started the paralegal work and said, wait a minute, I may not want to do this. That's a really good point that you're making. It introduced you to it. I mean, I have a nephew who started thinking about being a fireman. He spent 12 hours with the fireman and said, yes, I want to do it. As soon as he found out more about it, he actually went through several classes. He decided, no, the medical part of it wasn't for him. So it's very important to kind of delve into and experience what you're trying or want to reinvent yourself to make the right decision, right?
Absolutely. And law school is a financial obligation that, luckily with PCU, I will graduate without any debt. But if you're looking at an ABA law school, you're looking at $100,000 at least, and probably student loans in order to get you through those. For ABA programs, it's a 2 or 3 year program. As for part-time, we're 4 years.
Right, and that's
graduate without any debt. It's a lot less tuition.
That's huge. I mean, and that was one of the questions that I always ask everybody that's reinventing themselves is, how do you deal with the financial aspect of this, especially when you're going back to school? So the Pacific Coast University School of Law in Long Beach, I heard them say that they want every student that leaves, by the time they leave, that they don't have any debt. That's amazing.
It really is the way that they have set up. You put a chunk down for, deposit at registration, and then your basically remaining payments throughout the year, they get you paid up right before finals.
Wow.
So, and then if you happen to not be able to pay, then basically they're just withholding your grades until, you pay that last payment or whatnot. But they have made a very, very flexible schedule in terms of getting that tuition paid by the time the school year is over.
And it's a great education. There are several, as was mentioned at that mixer, several people in the city of Long Beach who are now serving and moved on to political positions who graduated from that university. So it's accredited. It's fantastic. I commend them in a lot of different ways. So even though you have to do all the work that's involved with this transition, going to school, obviously law school, it's a lot of work. Can you talk to who's been there to support you in this difficult journey? Who gave you the most assistance? Who could you count on in your family or friends?
Sure.
Or outside that even.
Oh yeah, right. I know. I mean, it's kind of a combination, right? It takes a village. First, it started out with my parents. I have 2 very wonderful parents who strongly believe in education and were willing to help me financially, or, even with my dog, when I needed to have them take care of her while I was studying for finals. I mean, it even comes down to things like that. where you need that support. So luckily, like I said, I have two very wonderful parents that really do help me out in any way, shape, or form I need it. And then I have a really great, close core group of girlfriends that, you know, if I just needed to talk to somebody, you know, because I'm going to be very honest with you, there was a time in my third year where I was like, forget it, I can't do this. This is too challenging. You know, I've sacrificed so much up to this point, and to not get the results that I wanted, I was like, what am I doing here? You know, I really questioned it. So those friends, you know, they came over, they talked me off a ledge essentially and said, you know, you only have so many months left of this year and you only have next year. Like, you can stick this out. You know, summer break couldn't come soon enough, basically. You know, and then luckily I have one really, really good friend in law school who we have, and especially this last year, have done a lot more studying together. We tutored together with an outside tutor. We've participated in outside activities with the school together, and he's the president of the student body and I'm the vice president this year. So we really have become a really great team to be able to talk one another through, you know, the trials and tribulations of law school. So luckily I have them.
Wonderful, wonderful. And that is even another one of my questions, but has this decision, and you kind of talked a little bit about it, created any obstacles in your life, as any effect to family or friends?
I would say, I've sacrificed time with, you know, I have missed funerals. I have missed births of children. Not too many weddings. Luckily those kind of ran around break time. But, you know, I've missed out on some big events because I just didn't have the time. You really do have to put a lot of time into studying. And so you sacrifice a lot of your personal life for the most part. You know, I've put off, you know, getting married, hopefully having children in the future in order to finish this degree. I just knew that trying to pile on a relationship and kids at this point just wasn't going to be a strength I was going to be able to have. While I'd love it, it's just, I had to put it on pause. You know, I think there's also, in terms of your professional goals, there are not a lot of companies willing to take someone on where it seems they're going to be gone as soon as they obtain this degree. And I've really tried to impress upon employers as I'm interviewing that this is in order for me to gain more experience, and I hope to turn this into a legal position ultimately. Some companies were open to it and other companies weren't. The company I'm with now, I have to say, they've been really supportive and understanding and have used all of the legal education I've received up to this point to be able to
benefit. There you go.
Absolutely benefit. I mean, and it's really, you have to sell yourself, you know, and really impress upon them that this isn't just a stepping stone. This is a mutually beneficial relationship here. I'm doing the work for you while at the same time I'm learning. And, you know, you have to impress upon your future bosses, employers, that this is your priority. Work is your priority. But when I'm done with work, school is my priority. So it's a lot of managing, you know, time management, you know, to have everything in a block, you know, what time you're working at work and what time you need, you know, after work or before work, even you get up early in the morning to read for class, you know.
So because I'm embarking a little bit on working full-time and my life coaching business. And what I've decided to do is put some limitations on how long my day will be, and also putting in blocks of playtime, making sure that I have that block of time. And I know in a case of a law school, I'm probably comparing apples and oranges, I will say, but did you ever put in blocks of kind of playtime, like in some sense? Yeah.
I did, especially in between times of, I would look at syllabuses, you know, before, when we got them before the school year started. And I would kind of look at the calendar and see, you know, okay, when are finals and how much time I needed to prepare for those finals and midterms and things like that. So, you know, up to what date you can kind of have some flexibility to go see a movie or just to really, you know, unwind at home and not feel guilty.
Yes.
You have to find that time, especially with this type of program, because it's all reading. It's intense reading. And some of this reading is from the 1800s, and you're like, wait, I don't even know what this says. I have to read this 3 or 4 times, and then I have to brief the case, to be prepared for class. So it hasn't been a lot, but I do try, even if it's going to the grocery store, that's just a time where I just need to focus on what I need to get. But at least it's a time where I know I don't have to worry about school for whatever that may be, an hour or whatnot.
Yeah, because it's difficult saying, just like you said, not feeling guilty about taking that time. In other words, if you're going to pick up something to read and it's not, school related, I can totally understand you feel completely guilty about that. And it's difficult. It's very difficult.
Because I can't wait to read a nonfiction or a fiction book again.
It's coming. It's coming. You're close. You're so close. Oh my God. Lots of women cite helping others for making a major change in their career. Did that play into your decision in any way?
I would say the majority at first. It's kind of been a path as you get to learn more and more law. When I first started this out, this was about helping me. Because I have to look out for number one. As I said, I'm not married. And I don't know, I hope that's in my future, but if it's not, I want to know that I can take care of myself. And I knew that this would be a career where I could, and I wouldn't have to depend on anybody else's income in order to pay a mortgage or whatnot. So at first it started out with me being able to take care of myself. Then along the way, especially we learned community property, wills and trusts last year. And you really start to see when you read these cases, how marriages can turn on a dime and you have to protect yourself. So I've really tried to impress upon my friends, before they get married, not necessarily for a prenup, that's a couple's personal decision. But in terms of keeping separate property versus community property and what that looks like, I have a friend who had purchased a home before she got married. She's renting it out now, but she's keeping that under her name and not commingling those funds so that if anything were to, God forbid, happen to her marriage, that will always be hers.
Yes, because she got it before she got married, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
So things like that I try to, talk to with my friends. So now it has become more of, I want to be able to help people. And having been the underdog at times myself, I want to be able to help an underdog, with whatever legal matter they come into. And not everybody has the money to pay an attorney, and I understand that. So I want to get to a comfortable place myself where I am able to help others in those types of situations.
When you do get your law degree, and I don't know what the state of California is about, there is a certain amount of pro bono work is it a requirement? I mean, I'm just asking this just because you brought it up. Yeah.
They do impress upon attorneys to try to accommodate at least 50 hours, I believe it is, of pro bono work. It's not mandated, but it is strongly recommended. And it's not always, and maybe I misspoke because now I can't remember if it's a requirement or not.
Hopefully it's not a test on that bar exam.
California bar is listening to me right now. But there is definitely 50 hours that you should, complete, because again, that's speaking to what we're, about, which is to counsel people and to be there for the public.
So how will you feel once you pass the bar and begin your life as a lawyer? Do you feel this is now the job you were meant to do, kind of allowing you to live a more authentic life? Or how is it going to make you feel?
Without getting emotional, because I really feel as if I have found my calling. Excuse me. I think in the back of my mind, there was one point where I did want to be an attorney. My father had said to me, why don't you go to law school? But I had another career path in mind. I have a master's in international relations and diplomacy. So really I wanted to be, work for the State Department and go be a diplomat or an ambassador. That's really what I was looking towards. Because I was thinking more of on a global scale, I wanted to help. But once I got into law school, and especially as I've gone through the years and have gained more and more legal knowledge, I find that people really do appreciate my advice because I have this background. I'm not playing an attorney by any means, but it's the fact that I can at least interpret legalese for them, and just kind of putting my own experience forth when they have present a situation to me, that I can say, well, if I were in your situation, this is how I would do it. So I really feel for the first time a real strength in what I'm doing. Even though there are times where obviously I'm very insecure too about what I know, what I don't know, and making sure that I'm advising correctly, up to this point.
Yeah, yeah. So what is one piece of advice that you would give others embarking on reinventing themselves on a reinvention journey? Most important piece of advice, I guess, that you could think of.
Be fearless in the endeavor. I think that as I've gotten older, I wasn't much of a risk taker when I was younger. I was very like, follow the line, stay on that straight and narrow. As I've gotten older, now that path, curves and ebbs and flows, because of the risks. And I will say that at this point, I'm happy that I've taken the risks. They haven't been perfect. I've learned a lot from my failures. I think that's where I've learned the most,
Yeah.
is the failure. But you have to be fearless in that conviction of what your heart, soul, brain are all telling you. If it feels right, you'll know it. And if it isn't, then you'll figure it out.
You're allowed to make changes after.
Absolutely. And it's never too late. And that's coming from someone who thought about law school in my 20s, decided against it, went another path. And now later on, I was kind of scared to start law school at my age. I thought I'm going to be in the room with nothing but a bunch of 20-somethings, but that ended up not being the case. There were a lot more working adults with families in their 30s and 40s and even 50s in law school. So then you don't feel uncomfortable. You just all have something to share in terms of what your life experience has been.
That's very good piece of advice. Please, if I've missed any part of your journey that you'd like to share with others or anything, let me know. This is kind of, we're towards the end, but I want to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Sure. Again, I think just kind of speaking to, just don't be scared. Just do the research, really take that time and try to really network with people in that industry. You have to really put yourself out there, and it's going to be uncomfortable situations, especially networking with a whole different industry, but you're trying to really pick their brain, and you're really trying to get, the experience or figure out what the industry is about. For me, it was, going to paralegal school, classes, and getting the understanding of what the law looked like and what the process of practicing it looked like. It's sacrifices, a lot of sacrifices. And I told my friend who I went to law school previously with, when she passed the bar and when she graduated, it's a culmination of literal blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
And you just have to set all of that aside to know that at the end, it's going to pay off, even though it doesn't look like it at the start. And you think, oh my gosh, 4 years, what am I doing? And then I'm going to take the bar. And then that's at least another, year, because you're prepping for the bar. You have to pass the bar, and then you're waiting for results that are, a few months away from when you take that exam. Yeah, it's heart-wrenching, and to find, you just learn how to adapt through these different, like I said, potholes and pitfalls of what this is really about. And I think that that's in any journey when you're switching careers. And I think as women, especially, we do have that pull of so many different directions, family and friends and, work and things like that. It all really just figures itself out. It really, really does. So that's why I say have no fear at this point. Having no fear.
Yeah, you're like, it's over now.
It's almost over now. Yeah.
Except one of the things I picked up with you, and I just want to say that before we end, is that I found in what I'm doing, when I really started delving into it and going to classes for what I'm doing as a life coach, all of a sudden, all the people that I knew or even just would go to networking meetings, life coaches started coming out of the woodwork and helping me. I mean, these are people that would meet with me for an hour and sit down and just talk about what they do and giving me advice. It was amazing. It was like you put it out to the universe and it comes back in so many ways that you couldn't even imagine. And I would imagine that that's in a lot of ways when you were networking and getting involved in these groups, people were really willing to help you and talk to you about it.
Absolutely. And I will say that in terms of the legal field, there really are, especially for women, the women are very supportive of someone like me, you know, who's a law student and is really looking to figure out her path in this industry. Very, very, very supportive. I'm a member of the Women Lawyers of Los Angeles, and I play golf with their golf league. And they are some of the most insightful women and always willing to give me advice when I'm seeking it, you know, because they have been through, you know, this quote unquote breaking the glass ceiling and what they're doing. So I think it's really important, you know, I think for men and women just to find those people, but they do end up kind of coming out of the woodwork for sure.
Yeah.
You know, being of a completely different industry, I was very welcomed into learning this process. So it was great.
Well, thank you, Jacqueline, for taking time out to talk to me today. Your information and the story that you have is just amazing. And it's really insightful. Like I always say, every single interview I do, every single person has something, it's something completely different to bring to the table that is helping other people with getting the courage and the clarity and understanding what the steps are. And, you know, even the pitfalls and how you learn from them in this journey. I was so impressed when you spoke at that mixer, and that's why I had to interview you. I wish you a ton of luck and success in passing the bar and moving into the legal field of your choice, first of all. And I just want kind of the people that are watching to know that your story is an example of how knowing yourself, your values and your interests is really, you have to know that really, really well before deciding to go back to school, that is so important. Making a change is always good, but making the right change is even better. And thank you again. I hope everyone enjoyed the interview. Jacqueline's email address has been shared throughout the interview so that you can reach her. And you can always reach me for a 20-minute discovery call to talk about how I can help with your reinvention dream at lisaandria.com. Have a great day. Thank you again.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks everybody for watching.